how would I recommend it? I fell asleep multiple times while reading this book, including today. And I only had like maybe 30 or 40 pages to finish reading today, and I fell asleep while reading it at 4 p.m.
Bad books, bad books. I've got so many bad books to read.
I read Crazy Love by Tara Jansen. Crazy Love is, well, I found out later when I was researching the book a little bit that it's actually like the 6th or 7th book in a series again.
Of course.
How I keep ending up getting like way late in a series, although it can be read as a standalone, so that's good. Basically, it follows members of the Special Defense Force, which is a super secret government, like when the CIA can't do it, they send these guys in, you know, they kill people, they don't take names, blah, 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 blah. They're the top of the top, the trained tier. And they're, for whatever reason, based out of Denver, Colorado. So they're in Denver. So on the team are a bunch of people that all have code names. And apparently in other books was how like the various people teamed up with their now girlfriends or wives or whatever. How they met was the other books. They're all romance books. But in this one, we have we'll go with grizzled, you know, he's been there the longest, Dylan Hart. He's like 41, and he's been doing this a long time. And he kicks ass, and it just, you know, he's super fancy. Anyways, he recently had been on this mission in Indonesia where he was going up against a drug lord, and while he was in Indonesia, he got captured and was tortured by this crazy drug lord guy and this doctor who injected him with like crazy truth serums and a variety of other drugs. He manages to escape and makes his way back home to Denver, Colorado, where they are assigned a new mission to find the Godwin file at some senator's residence. A bunch of the guys had been on this previous mission, and they were all like out for the count and they couldn't do it, and Skeeter was like, I want to do it. Now Skeeter Bang is, I would say she's like 5'8", thin, blonde, super hot. She's got a lot of tattoos. Apparently she was like a rebel and had been in like the foster care system, and then was like on the streets, and then got brought into the Special Defense Force at like age 18 as a car mechanic, because the whole building that they're in, their cover is that they like sell stolen cars that they soup up. I really don't know what. There's a lot of cars involved, and a lot of time, and they have like 100 cars at their disposal. They all have names like Bertha and Betsy and Deborah or whatever. They're naming all these cars. And so they're like talking about, oh, you take this fancy car. And apparently she also did like street racing, which is like briefly discussed in the beginning, but then never brought up again. But yeah, so Skeeter, who is 20, has a thing for Dylan Hart, who is 41. And there's a lot of sexual tension. Oh, the other really important thing is that she has a lightning bolt shaped tattoo that runs from her ankle, up her leg, across the hips, up around the shoulder, and then like back on the other side. I don't know really what, like, I don't know if it just looks like an electrical path or like actual lightning. I think it's just in black and white, but I'm not sure. And then she also has like words tattooed on her arm. It's like dignity, trust, and something else. I don't know, she's got a bunch of tattoos. And then she wears like tall leather boots and like a leather skirt, baby crop tees, and she's always got sunglasses on because she's got a big scar on her forehead also, and she wears a trucker cap. And she's got really long blonde hair, so I don't know. Anyway, she's super hot and she's 20. And they have this romance going. Yeah, and they have this romance going. And he's like, I don't know, she's so young, whatever. So they go on this mission together, and he's like, you're not ready for the field. You need to just sit in the car, and you're gonna sit in the car, and I am going to do the mission, and you will do the sitting. Don't move. And she's like, I don't want to do the sitting. And he's like, well, that's unfortunate, young lady, because you are not ready for this, so you're gonna stay in the car. And she's like, oh yeah? You think I'm gonna stay in the car? Well, you don't know anything. And so she, behind his back, plans all this other stuff, and he puts her, so she's supposed to be like his wife at this event, and like she had like brought a fancy dress, but then he like changed last minute. He's like, no, you don't get to be my wife. You're my driver, you're my chauffeur, you sit in the car. And he puts her in like a stupid chauffeur costume that has like the tasseled shoulders, the epaulettes on the shoulders, and she's like got the hat on, and she's like, it's not what the look she wanted. So they're there to steal the Godwin file, which the Godwin file is basically some senators and some like higher ups. They were like, these people need to kill these people, and they signed up on the paperwork. And in there was like a lot of dirty dealings, right? And it had like names attached and who authorized what. And so it was supposed to be this really important file that like was gonna, you know, could do a lot of damage given to the right or wrong people. I don't know. They're supposed to steal the file. It's locked in the senator's vault. Remember, lead guy Dylan had been trapped in Indonesia and given weird meds. Apparently, those meds weren't out of his system yet, and so there was potential. The US doctors didn't know what he was given. They're like, okay, it could be one of three things. So we're gonna give you some some like antidotes. If you get really hot and sweaty and you start getting a fever, take the red one. If half of your body goes numb and your like teeth are falling out, take the blue. I don't remember what it was exactly. Take the blue one. And they're like, and if your heart stops, then do the yellow one. And he's like, oh great. Okay, so he's carrying around this case of freaking syringes with him. And of course, what happens in the middle of him doing the heist? He's like freaking sneaking, right? He's in the vault. He made it in the vault. And he's in there and he starts getting real sweaty. And he's like, oh God, oops, oh no. So he like gets out of the vault. He like finds the file, takes the file, gets out of the vault, and then he hears, or no, he smells cinnamon. And he's like, someone's here. And then guess who it was? It was Skeeter Bang. She didn't stay in the car. No. She was like, I'ma steal the file before he steals the file. He thinks he can just make me stay in the car? Absolutely not. But what they don't know is the Indonesian pirates that he had run away from. Yeah, leader dude, pissed. Leader dude, super mad. He shouldn't have gotten away. So they've tracked him back to Colorado and then back to Washington, D.C. because that's where this whole party thing was. So the Indonesian pirate guy, he's like, yes, you're gonna have to kill him, and sends out an insider, some guy who went rogue from the CIA, and he knows what's going on, and then a bunch of other piratey henchmen to go and kill Dylan, and they want to bring back Skeeter Bang unharmed so that he can have his way with her, because he is gross. Ew. They don't know that these pirates are there, right? And they don't know that they got the inside scoop. So Skeeter abandons post and is sneaking in. She's like, oh my God. And so she comes sneaking in and it's like, I'm gonna steal the file. So then she slips down and she gets into the vault and she starts looking for the file. And then she can't find it because Dylan already has the file. And Dylan saw her come down and he's like, oh my God, seriously? This chick is so stupid. Why would she leave her post? So then he starts having major problems, right? He's like super feverish, he's sweating like crazy, and he's having hallucinations of leeches and butterflies. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm hallucinating. You've got leeches on your shoulders. Let me get those for you. And she's like, oh my God, Dylan, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And then he's like, butterflies. And he's like, by the way, you're so hot. You're like really sexy. And she's like, oh my God, Dylan, like you're so sweaty. Is this the fever? Do you like where are your syringes? You know, because he told her in advance. She's like, where are your syringes? And he's like, they're somewhere. You want to find them? I think you could probably find them. Sorry, there's more leeches. Just, by the way, we should have sex. You should definitely. I would like to sleep with you, please. And she's like, Dylan, oh my God. I mean, like, I really want to have sleep with you too. Actually, how about we make out a little bit? And they're like, right? And so I'm like, girl, get it together. You're supposed to be a freaking secret operative. Like, he's the one hallucinating. You're fine. And she's like, oh, I'm losing it. Oh no. And then she's like, we could get it together. And then what happens? They can hear the fucking pirates coming. The Indonesian pirates, right? They start hearing that they're coming, and she's like, oh shit. And then, of course, Dylan, they still haven't administered the medicine, so he just like fucking conks out and is on the ground. And she's like digging around. She's like, oh, you're so fine, but like I need to find this medicine. Like, oh man. And then he's like, oh, the medicine's gonna hurt really bad. And she's like, okay, well, it's probably better than dead. And he's like, oh, but will you promise to have sex with me afterwards? Because that's the only thing that'll get me through this. And she's like, yeah, that sounds great. Then the pirates show up, right? And she's like, no. And so she manages to, I think she actually leaves Dylan in the vault and closes the vault, which is hidden behind a bookcase, closes the vault. And then she goes and sneaks upstairs, right? She's upstairs, and then she's like peering over the ledge and just manages to shoot directly in the forehead one of the pirates, and he's just out. He's done. He's dead, right? But then it alerted the pirates to her being there, right? And they're all like, ah, yeah. And so they all start running for her, and she like manages to take out one other pirate, and then she's like fist fighting two pirates, right? She's just like, and the pirates are like, oh, this girl's so strong. I didn't expect this. And she's like, okay. But then she can't do it. She can't. The pirates are too strong. They're trying to like haul her out the door. And then what happens? Dylan, recovered kind of, and he stands up and he just shoots him. And so she's like, oh shit. And then there was a guard that showed up because of the commotion, and then that guard got shot, and they're like, oh God, bring in everyone. And so now the entire estate is on red alert, and they have to run away. And so she's like running with Dylan. She's like, come on, Dylan, let's go. And so they run off into the distance, and Dylan is not cooperating well. He's not cooperating. Now mind you, this whole time, there's backup of Travis and Red Dog. Bruh. Red Dog is a kind of mousy woman named Jillian who just started working for the Defense Department, and she was the one who has been helping supply gear and stuff. Anyways, apparently she's like real cute. And then there's this guy Travis who, quote, is a godlike angel man of super hunky whatever. And so she's like, hey Travis, or Skeeter's like, hey Travis, I could really use your backup for this thing because I'm not sure what's all gonna happen, but I'm not listening to that man's directions. And he's like, cool, sounds like fun. And she's like, cool, I set it up. Somebody's gonna pick you up from the airport. And he's like, fuck yeah, great. So he goes to the airport and he's getting picked up by this chick who's like mousy and very practical. And they describe her outfit like a lot. She's got on a khaki skirt and a khaki blouse, and the skirt is like rumply, and the blouse is like the buttons undone, and she's got tennis shoes on, and she's got like her shoelaces untied, and then she has like a lot of pockets on the skirt, and there's just stuff pouring out of the pockets. There's like cables and paper and pens, like an entire children's backpack in the pockets of her skirt falling out. And then her hair's all fluffy, and she's just kind of standing there like... And so there's this whole thing about, oh, a woman coming undone. She looks like she should be prim and proper, but her blouse is coming unbuttoned and her hair is tousled and blah, blah, blah. So Travis, of course, is like, oh, you are so fine. You look delectable. And then eventually she's like, okay, I'm gonna take you to the hotel, but we gotta hurry. And so she's driving a Honda Civic that has half of her belongings in it, apparently like a man through the streets. And there's an excessive amount of time spent on the guy being like, oh God, like you're the worst driver in the world. But then they were making really good time. And somehow we're very far away the whole time. I don't know, it was very bizarre. Eventually, they get to the hotel that they were supposed to be meeting up at. After this whole car ride, they're like, and they just boom, sex in the car. Sex in the car. And it was not bad. I mean, it was pretty decent, the whole scene, except it would be like, we're in the car, things are getting heated, things are getting spicy. Wait. Cut to man being stabbed in gruesome detail. Cut to back to the car, sexy time. Cut to the pirates have shown up in Colorado also. Cut to sexy time in the car. Cut to dragging Dylan around while he's freaking hallucinating about leeches. Back to sexy time in the car. And I'm like, okay, could we just do one? Could we just do one? And then it would cut to a scene of the Indonesian pirate leader talking about whatever. And I'm like, okay, can we just focus on one thing? I don't know why we're dragging out this, like, what is clearly like maybe 10 minutes worth of car sex across several chapters. Because it's not better. So they're escaping from the senator's house, and Dylan is still hallucinating about everything, whatever. And they get to like this shitty truck because her car was blocked in, and so they have to find a new vehicle, and they find a Chevy Impala, and that was like broken to all hell, and it ends up getting named Doreen the Impala. And so they're like driving the shitty Chevy Impala, apparently driving through a very bad part of Washington, D.C., like a super ghetto-y area. And Dylan is like, I swear to have sex. And Skeeter's like, this car is dying. I need to fix it. And she's like, let me get out and fix the car. And he's like, but wait. What if we had sex first? And so then they also have sex in the car. And like in a Chevy Impala, and the first one was in a Honda Civic, and I was like, okay, car sex again? Sure. Oh, all right. And like, that was also broken up across, and I was like, okay, hold up. Okay, you are on the run. This is not the time to be having car sex. Why couldn't you wait till you got back to the hotel? Probably would have been better. Also, he's like hallucinating and having like a whole crazy fever thing. Can he really get it up right now? Is this the best sex? This isn't what we want, okay? And what I found really interesting was the sex scenes were very clearly written more to a woman's taste. Like there was like a slow sensuality to them, but the rest of the book has like a really intense emphasis on cars and guns. And it's like, I can tell that the author really doesn't know much about guns because they keep describing a gun every time by saying all of the numbers and letters attached to the end of it. Instead of just saying, oh, he pulled out a submachine gun. It'd be like, he pulled out an AMX W34 submachine gun with a sniper scope and blah, 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 blah. And like, this would be a great time to use that. And like, just like very specific. And you'd think it maybe, like, no, all of the gear, incredibly specific. Every time it gets pulled out, it made no sense. Suddenly, Skeeter's night was lying out before her, chock full of opportunities for using that night-matched SR-25 sniper rifle with the Litton Aquilia 6X Starlight scope attached.
Bruh.
That's on page 228. All right, we're well into the book by this point. That is a very specific. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. This is very specific. And then it'll go back and forth between somebody getting a very serious depiction of somebody getting killed and then being like, I hope that gal kicks butt. Anyways, there's just the two brief sex scenes in the book towards like 2/3 in. And then, other than that, it's just all pointless. How would I recommend it? I fell asleep multiple times while reading this book, including today. And I only had like maybe 30 or 40 pages to finish reading today, and I fell asleep while reading it at 4 p.m. I would give it, like just as a book in general, 2.5 out of 5. Spice, 2 to 5. I mean, maybe a 3. And there wasn't enough of it. The story would have been a lot better if there was more boning. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. That was the Bad Reads Book Club. Thanks, guys.